Shalom, my friend. You want visible success, but you have no margin. Look at your bank account right now. How many months could you survive without income? 3, 2, 1? Most of you are measuring weeks, not months. You have no financial margin. Check your calendar. When was the last time you had an entire day with nothing scheduled? When did you last have 3 consecutive hours with no obligations? You have no time margin. Feel your energy level right now at this moment. Are you running on reserves or fumes? When you wake up tomorrow, will you be restored or already depleted before your feet hit the floor? You have no energy margin. You built a life with no reserves, no buffer, no support, and you call it stability. Every decision you make is reactive because you have no space to be proactive. Every opportunity that arrives finds you already at capacity. Every unexpected event becomes a crisis because you have no buffer to absorb impact. You are living in the red zone of every metric that matters, and you wonder why success feels so fragile, why progress feels so slow, why everything feels like it could collapse at any moment. Because it could. If your margin is less than 90 days, you are not stable. You are exposed. You are one disruption away from exposure. One client loss, one system failure, one family emergency, and your carefully constructed image of stability crumbles. Not because you are weak, but because you built spectacle before storage. This is the illusion that destroys more lives than any moral failing. The belief that visible progress equals actual stability. The assumption that busy equals productive, that full equals successful, that maximum capacity equals optimal performance. You fill every slot in your calendar because empty space feels like wasted opportunity. You spend every dollar you earn because saving feels like losing potential. You exhaust every ounce of energy you have because rest feels like laziness. But maximum is not optimal. Full is not functional. Busy is not building. Watch a master craftsman work. He does not use every tool simultaneously. He does not apply maximum force to every action. He does not work at maximum speed on every task. He understands that reserve capacity is working capacity. A car that runs at red line all day does not perform better. It dies faster. That is what you are doing with your life. You have eliminated this margin from your life. You operate at the edge of every limit, and you call this optimization. But engineering teaches us something different. Systems that run at maximum capacity for extended periods do not perform better. They fail faster. Margin precedes momentum. This is not philosophy. This is how life works. Look at Solomon, not as a legend, as an engineer. Before the temple, there were storage cities. Before gold, there were reserves. Before glory, there was infrastructure. He reinforced before he displayed. He stored before he expanded. He governed before he built what the world could see. Visible success requires invisible support. Storage precedes spectacle. The temple that everyone remembers was only possible because of the storage infrastructure that nobody talks about. The glory that lasted generations was built on the foundation of reserves that operated in the background. You want to build the temple first. You want the visible success, the impressive results, the recognition and impact. But you have not built the storage cities. You have not created the supply chains. You have not established the reserves. So your temple becomes a monument to instability rather than a testament to wisdom. If you have no margin, you are one shock away from exposure. Now imagine something different. not disaster, not collapse, just expansion. Imagine your income doubles in the next 12 months. More clients, more visibility, more responsibility. Your schedule fills faster. Your phone rings more. Your name travels further. Now ask yourself honestly, could your current structure absorb double volume without doubling stress? Could your current discipline handle double cash flow without doubling consumption? Could your current emotional stability survive double scrutiny without collapsing into reaction? Expansion does not reduce pressure. It multiplies it. If you cannot survive contraction, you are fragile. If you cannot survive expansion, you are unstable. Margin is what allows both. Your biggest client decides to end their contract. Not because you failed to deliver, but because their industry shifted or their priorities changed. Without financial margin, this becomes an immediate crisis. With proper reserves, this becomes a transition period. A family member requires unexpected medical care. Not a catastrophic illness, just something that demands your time and attention for several weeks. Without time margin, your entire system collapses. With proper scheduling reserves, you can respond without destroying everything else. Your primary revenue system experiences a technical failure or regulatory change, not a permanent shutdown, just a temporary disruption that requires adaptation. Without operational margin, you scramble and panic. With proper backup systems, you continue functioning while you adapt. These are not extreme scenarios. These are normal variations in life and business that become catastrophic only when you have no margin to absorb them. But you resist creating margin because it feels like limitation. It feels like you are choosing less instead of more, restricting yourself instead of expanding, playing it safe instead of maximizing opportunity. This is where the illusion becomes dangerous. Margin is not limitation. Margin is leverage. Margin is not restriction. Margin is capability. Margin is not playing it safe. Margin is building the foundation that makes bold moves possible. The fighter pilot who conserves fuel is not being cautious. He is ensuring he can complete his mission and return safely. The chess master who does not commit all pieces to attack is not being defensive. She is maintaining the flexibility to respond to changing conditions. You need margin in your spending patterns. This means your monthly expenses must be significantly less than your monthly income, not barely covered by it. This means you maintain cash reserves that could cover multiple months of expenses without any income. This means you resist the temptation to increase spending immediately when income increases. You need margin in your calendar. This means scheduling fewer commitments than your time could technically accommodate. This means protecting blocks of unscheduled time for unexpected opportunities or necessary responses. This means building transition time between commitments rather than scheduling back-to-back obligations. You need margin in your energy allocation. This means operating at sustainable intensity levels rather than maximum output levels. This means protecting time and activities that restore rather than just consume energy. This means recognizing that consistent, moderate performance often produces better results than sporadic maximum performance. You need reserve buffers in every critical system. This means backup revenue streams that could partially replace your primary income if necessary. This means redundant systems for essential operations, so single points of failure do not create total disruption. This means maintained relationships and resources that could provide support during difficult periods. Margin creates options. Options create power. Power creates the ability to choose your response rather than just react to circumstances. But measuring margin requires honest assessment of your current reality. You cannot manage what you do not measure. You cannot improve what you do not acknowledge. If you want to measure it precisely instead of guessing, download the free vessel inspection protocol below. Most people guess about their financial stability rather than calculating it precisely. They assume they know their time availability rather than tracking it accurately. They estimate their energy levels rather than monitoring their patterns systematically. Guessing is not architecture. Assumptions are not engineering. Estimates are not measurements. If you do not measure margin, you are guessing about stability. Measure it. Start with your financial margin. Calculate exactly how long you could maintain your current lifestyle without any income, not with extreme belt tightening, not by selling assets, not by borrowing money. How long could you continue exactly as you are right now with zero new income? If this number is less than 3 months, you have no financial margin. You have financial exposure masquerading as stability. Let's push this further. If your income stopped for 120 days, what changes first? Do you cancel subscriptions, sell assets, borrow money, call someone for help? Or do you continue calmly because you prepared before you displayed? Now go deeper. If your revenue doubled tomorrow, what changes first? Do you increase lifestyle, upgrade status, expand obligations, or do you increase reserves because you understand scale requires reinforcement? The problem is not income. The problem is containment. You do not need more flow. You need stronger walls. Measure your time margin. Track how many hours per week you have available that are not already committed to essential activities. Include work, family obligations, necessary personal care, commuting, and basic life maintenance. What remains? If this number is less than 10 hours per week, you have no time margin. You have schedule saturation masquerading as productivity. Measure your energy margin. Assess honestly whether you could handle additional responsibilities or unexpected demands without significant stress or performance degradation. Could you work extra hours for several weeks if necessary? Could you provide care for a family member while maintaining your other obligations? If the answer is no, you have no energy margin. You have maximum utilization masquerading as efficiency. These measurements are not comfortable for most people. They reveal the gap between appearance and reality, between the image of stability and the actual structural foundation. But accurate measurement is the beginning of accurate construction. You cannot build what you cannot see. You cannot improve what you will not acknowledge. The goal is not to maximize these margins. The goal is to maintain sufficient margins to operate effectively under both normal and stress conditions. A building is not designed to withstand only perfect weather. It is designed to function safely under various load conditions, including some that exceed normal parameters. Your life architecture must follow the same principles. Sufficient margin to handle normal variations, plus additional reserve capacity for exceptional circumstances. This requires saying no to things that would technically fit in your schedule but would eliminate your time margin. This requires avoiding purchases that you could technically afford but would eliminate your financial margin. This requires declining commitments that you could technically handle but would eliminate your energy margin. Saying no to technically possible becomes saying yes to actually sustainable. The architect who designs a bridge calculates the normal traffic load and then adds significant margin above that number. The bridge that could theoretically handle maximum possible traffic but has no safety margin is not properly engineered. It will perform adequately under ideal conditions and fail catastrophically under stressed conditions. You are both the architect and the bridge. You must design yourself to handle not just ideal conditions, but the full range of conditions you are likely to encounter. This is why Solomon built storage before glory. He understood that visible achievements require invisible infrastructure. He understood that public success requires private preparation. He understood that lasting impact requires systematic margin. The temple was magnificent precisely because it was supported by comprehensive storage systems. The rain was stable precisely because it was founded on deep reserves. The wisdom was trusted precisely because it was backed by practical preparation. Margin precedes momentum. When you have proper margins, opportunities become possibilities instead of problems. When you have reserve capacity, you can respond to circumstances instead of just reacting to them. When you have systematic buffers, you can make strategic choices instead of just surviving tactical demands. But margin requires discipline to create and wisdom to maintain. It requires resisting the cultural pressure to maximize everything, to optimize every resource, to utilize every opportunity. It requires understanding that the space between your current capacity and your maximum capacity is not waste. It is working room. It is responsibility. It is the difference between fragile efficiency and robust effectiveness. The next structural law deepens this principle. You do not rise to opportunity. You rise to capacity. When capacity is thin, opportunity becomes pressure. When capacity is strong, pressure becomes power. Most men chase expansion. Very few reinforce structure. That is why most men experience cycles instead of legacy. Storage before glory. Reinforcement before recognition. Margin before momentum. That is not caution. That is engineering. The next structural law is already waiting. But first, measure your margin, calculate your financial reserves, track your time availability, assess your energy capacity, get precise numbers instead of vague impressions. Then create systematic buffers in each area, not because you're being cautious, but because you're being architectural, not because you lack ambition, but because you understand that sustainable ambition requires sustainable structure. Build the storage cities before you build the temple. Create the reserve capacity before you attempt maximum performance. Establish the margin before you pursue the momentum. This is how reality works, whether you acknowledge it or not. This is how systems function, whether you accept it or not. This is how architecture operates, whether you apply it or not. But when you do apply it, when you do create proper margin, when you do build storage before glory, you discover something powerful. You discover that limitation creates liberation. You discover that boundaries create capability. You discover that saying no to some things enables you to say yes to the right things. You discover that margin is not the enemy of success. Margin is the foundation of success. Margin is not the opposite of momentum. Margin makes momentum possible. Margin precedes momentum. When you have proper margins, opportunities become possibilities instead of problems. When you have reserve capacity, you can respond to circumstances instead of just reacting to them. When you have systematic buffers, you can make strategic choices instead of just surviving tactical demands. But margin requires discipline to create and wisdom to maintain. It requires resisting the cultural pressure to maximize everything everything, to optimize every resource, to utilize every opportunity. It requires understanding that the space between your current capacity and your maximum capacity is not waste. It is working room. It is responsibility. It is the difference between fragile efficiency and robust effectiveness. Storage precedes spectacle. Reserve precedes recognition. Architecture precedes achievement. Build accordingly. Your soul is the blueprint. Your life is the construction. Shalom, my friend. Now let's build the life God designed for you.